It's been a minute since we've cooked together, and I hope that the new year is off to a good start for you, even with COVID restrictions and masks and everything else. And I hope that you and your families are doing well in 2021. It's also been a minute since I have made a cheese souffle. It's seriously, I'm not even kidding, it's probably been 3 years. So this is going to be like me doing it for the first time. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, this is my real house. This is a real kitchen. It is not a demo kitchen. And I have real dogs that may or may not bark at any given time, especially if somebody comes to the door or if a delivery is made. So just be aware of that. I did give you a prep list, and I gave you some do-ahead items. And one of those do-ahead items was to squeeze your spinach as dry as possible. And then I gave you a tip on how to do it. So I'm going to show you what I was talking about. So I've thawed and drained my spinach. I punched it down in the colander and got as much moisture as I could out. Now I'm going to take a dish towel. Now this is just a really thin cotton dish towel. You don't want to use one that you really are in love with. I use this one when I have bread rising, so it says cover the bread. This is what I cover it with because it's light. And you're going to put your spinach in the middle of this, and you're going to wrap it up and twist the ends so that you're basically going to be wringing the towel. And you're going to see even more moisture is going to come out. Because you don't want your spinach or your kale, if you're using that, or your Swiss chard, to be too wet, because then it waters down the sauce and it'll prevent your souffle from rising. So I hope that for those of you that are cooking along with me, that you followed my tips. You have your oven preheated to 375. If you don't, get it going. Your oven should be empty except for the racks, and there should be a rack in the middle of your oven with nothing above it. Because remember, your souffle hopefully is going to rise up, and you don't want it to rise up and hit the rack at top. Okay, so this, I think I get just about all the moisture out of here that I can. But see how much more was in there? And it might have prevented my souffle from rising. So, in a 10-ounce package of spinach, this is all that's left. So, that's, it's a lot of water. So we're just going to set that off to the side. The first thing we're going to do is butter our pan. Now, I didn't tell you guys to have a pastry brush on hand, but if you have one, grab it. Sorry, I omitted that from the equipment list. If you don't have a pastry brush, it's fine. Just use...
You're going to have to be a little louder, I think.
Oh, my husband says I'm not loud enough. Nobody has ever told me that, ever. So, if you don't have a pastry brush, you can just use a stick of butter like this, and you're going to get it all on the inside. Remember, I showed you in the video that I'm using because I don't own a souffle dish any longer. I'm using a cast iron fondue pot from a restaurant here that closed, and I told the chef how much I love the pot with all its beat up markings and everything, and he goes, "You can have it." He says, "We're closing, we're getting rid of everything." I was like, okay. So I have this great cast iron fondue pot, and you want your butter to come all the way up the sides, and you want a nice, generous, but not gloppy, thick coating on there. And then you're going to take your Parmesan cheese, and you're going to sprinkle your finely grated parm in there. I have a couple of big chunks that I want out of there. And you're going to dust the inside of the pan with it. So what I mean by that is you're going to shake it around. You're going to tilt your pan and basically do this. Now, if you're doing ramekins, it's the same technique, and it should look like this when you're done. Okay? Now, I did not tell you to have a sheet pan for your ramekins. You don't need one, but it makes it easier to put them in and out of the oven. So if you've got if you're using the ramekins, get a sheet pan and line them all up on there so you can put them all in at once and the oven is not open for a prolonged period of time, because the longer you keep the oven open, the cooler it gets, and you want that blast of heat to help your soufflés rise. So I'm just gonna finish dusting the inside of my pan, and you want to try to get it all the way to the edges, because if you do this correctly, your souffle should rise above the edge of your pan. If you do it correctly. So we'll see if I do it correctly. And like I said, I've never made it in this pan. I've only ever done it in ramekins, so we'll see if I can get the volume correct. Okay, so our pans are ready. Let's get to work. All right, so you want to start melting your butter over medium heat. And if you've been following along with our demos from the very beginning, we did a bechamel the very first day when we made a croque madame. We're actually going to do the same technique. We're going to make a really quick bechamel because that's going to be the basis for the sauce. So basically, when you make a souffle, you're making a sauce and you're making a meringue, and you're beating the sauce into the meringue and then baking it. Okay? So when I told you to separate your eggs, I'm waiting for my butter to melt. I told you you're going to use all 6 whites, and you're only going to use 4 of the yolks. Those 4 yolks are going to go in our sauce. The whites are going to be beaten totally separately. So I have 4 in here, and I'm going to do the final 2. And like I said, reserve your yolks, the 2 extra yolks, for something else. You can make your own mayonnaise with it, or aioli. And this is my preferred method of separating egg whites. Oh, I just threw it in the trash. Oh well. Because I was busy looking at my butter. I like to separate the egg over a separate container first, in case the egg is funky, because sometimes that happens, especially if you're getting farm eggs. Sometimes you'll find some stuff in there that you didn't expect. Okay, now that our butter is melted, we're going to add our flour. And we're going to mix really quickly with our whisk. And this recipe, we're going to move really fast, you guys. And so what's going on here is it's starting to bubble. Remember, we're making a blonde roux. So all you're going to do at this point is cook it until it stops smelling like flour. It should smell like, you know, gorgeous melted butter, and it shouldn't have that floury smell anymore. And I'm going to turn my flame down just a little bit. Now your milk should have been hot. I told you to heat it ahead of time. I heated mine in the microwave. And we're just going to whisk and pour at the same time, because you want nice, smooth sauce. And you're going to have to stir, stir, stir until all of the lumps are out. And if necessary, turn your flame down even more. So it should be looking something like that. Okay? Now here's where we start to have some fun. We're going to do a new technique today that I've never taught you guys before. We're going to temper our eggs. So, let me move these. All right, so here's my 4 egg yolks. And we're just going to gently beat them. And into the sauce, we're going to add our spinach and our cheese. That I told you to have grated ahead of time. We're going to mix it in. Now, if your sauce looks really thick, like wallpaper paste, you might want to add, and mine's looking pretty thick, you might want to add a little bit of milk if necessary after we add our eggs, because the eggs are going to thin it out. So we're mixing our spinach and our cheese in. Okay, so if you were to pour those eggs into this mixture, you would end up with scrambled egg yolks. So what we want to do, and this is called tempering the eggs, is take just a little bit of the hot mixture and mix it into the eggs. So you're bringing the eggs closer in temperature to the rest of the sauce. And we're going to do it one more time. We're just going to run our whisk around the sauce. And we're going to put a little bit more of the sauce into the eggs. So this is what your sauce should look like now. It should have flecks of spinach in it. And in your pan, whatever you're using, your bowl, should start to feel a little bit warmer. Now this is crucial. Mix and stir at the same time, because you do not want to scramble your eggs. And you're going to pour it in very slowly. Wait until what you poured in is already incorporated. Then add a little bit more. And then add the final bit. At this point, you can remove your pan from the flame. I want to get all of that eggy goodness in there. And once I have it all incorporated, I'll show you what the texture should look like. It should be fairly thick. It's not going to be like a thin, runny sauce. It's going to be a fairly thick sauce. And this is going to get suspended in our egg whites. So this is really thick, you guys. It's really thick. Okay? So now you can just set this aside, and now we're going to get to work on our egg whites. So, egg whites, I don't know what your level of experience is. I'm just going to say egg whites are not as difficult as everybody thinks they are, okay? They need a couple of things to make them happy. One of them is they like to be at room temperature, which is why I told you to take them out ahead of time, because they do become more voluminous if they're at room temp. You could certainly work with cold egg whites and it won't hurt them any. But if they're room temperature, they do have a tendency to have more volume. Now, they like high speed, but you don't want to start off that way because then you could splash it all over. So just go gently and gradually bring it up to high speed. Okay, so let's season our sauce while we're working with our egg whites. We're going to put in about a half a teaspoon of salt. We're going to grate some fresh nutmeg in, just a couple. Because if you could taste the nutmeg, you put too much in. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you're using pre-ground nutmeg, just a pinch. And we're going to put in a pinch of cayenne, and this is more or less to taste. We happen to like things a little bit spicier, so mine's about 1/8 of a teaspoon. But for just normal people, a pinch is fine. And then if you want, you could put the freshly grated white pepper or pre-ground white pepper in there. Okay. When your egg whites start to look like this, I'm going to try and show you with the whipper. They start to look foamy and they're starting to hold their shape. This is when you add in cream of tartar. Now, years ago I like to watch food TV, okay? And I still don't understand why I don't have my own show, but that's a whole other conversation. Years ago I was watching Emeril Lagasse make something. It was something meringue, I'm sure. And what he said is cream of tartar is like Viagra for egg whites. It helps them achieve a really stiff posture and stay that way. So you don't need a lot. We're going to put in 1/4 of a teaspoon right into our egg white, and we're going to turn that mixer back on. Just mixing in my seasonings. Oh, I got some cayenne in the cup. That's not fun. Okay, so by now, the volume in your mixer should be significant. And they should be almost at the point where they are stiff. Let's check. Okay, so when you pull your beater out, if they're making little peaks like this, see how they're holding their shape? You're just about there. We want it just a little bit more. Because remember, we're going to suspend this mixture in these egg whites. Do I have any questions so far?
No questions. Your sister said that she had to quit following because you were too fast.
Which is why I told you to do the prep list ahead of time. Which sister, Nancy?
Of course. And you've got folks, you've got Karen Beringer in Florida watching. Bethany Chrysler commented, Karen Shalita.
Bethany Kangeyser? Is that what you said?
Bethany Chrysler.
Oh, Chrysler. Hi, Bethany Chrysler.
Tina.
Great.
Lisa McCullough.
Hi, Lisa. I'm so glad that you posted this out to your friends because it's been a long time since I've done a live cooking demo for you guys. It's been a lot of years.
Patrice. And your sister Nancy said, I did my prep. Wow.
Okay. All right. See how these are all, it almost looks like styrofoam peanuts when you bang it out. That's good. That's what we wanted. Okay. So, we want as much of this egg white in here as we can get because the more, the merrier. Okay?
Lori Farina from Las Vegas is
Hello, Lori Farina. I don't know you, but I'm glad that you joined us.
and Nancy is still watching.
Oh, good. All right. So, Our egg whites are at room temperature. Our spinach mixture is cooling down.
Your Bethany is Bethany from your cookbook.
Yeah, Can Geyser.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she, I guess her maiden name is on there. Okay, so I want to show you these spoons while we're waiting. My sister Nancy had these made for me for Christmas, and they're by a company called Windsong Laser Art Studio. I will link them on my page so you guys can all see them. But she had them specially engraved for me. I don't know if you could see it. Am I close enough, babe?
Yeah.
Okay. So the one says stirring the pot since 1965, and the other one has my good for spooning on it. So you can use a nice, see how slim these are? Round spoon or a rubber spatula to do our folding. Now, folding is a technique, and I'm going to show you what it looks like outside of the pot. You're going to start on the far side of the pot, and you are going to come up and then flip your spoon over and cut down into the middle, and then go from the middle to the outside all the way over to the other side, okay? And we're going to do this one spoonful at a time until this is incorporated. So I'm taking about a quarter of my sauce. I'm going to put it, just lay it out, and I'm going to start on the far side, and I'm going to tilt it over. You see how I'm folding the spinach mixture into the meringues, okay? Now we're going to add some more. And actually, because I made a nice big hole, I'm actually just going to pour most of it in there. And you will notice that your meringue, your egg whites, are going to deflate a little bit, and that's fine as long as they don't collapse. Now, a couple of myths about making a souffle. If you have your house on a slab, you do not need to tiptoe around the oven. You see how I'm folding? And how it's becoming more uniform looking. It's not really complicated. You're just starting on the side away from you, pulling it toward you, and then cutting the sauce into the middle, okay? So a couple of myths. One, if your house is on a slab like mine is, you don't need to tiptoe around the stove. If your house is in an apartment building, or you are on a crawl space underneath, you might want to walk gently so that you don't shake the floor, because that can make your souffle collapse. You are not going to slam your oven door, because that will definitely make your souffle collapse.
Lisa McCullough wanted to know, will you send the recipe and this recording, because my daughter and I are behind in the step.
That's fine. The recording will be available on YouTube shortly after the demo is complete. And we're going to have time for you guys to catch up, when I'm done here.
Sheridan Martin did not catch when the flour was added.
At the very beginning, we made a roux. Then we added the milk to make a very thick bechamel. Then we added the spinach and the cheese and incorporated them. Once those were incorporated, we used a little bit of the warm spinach mixture to temper our eggs, and then added the eggs into the spinach mixture, and then put our seasonings, our cayenne, our nutmeg.
With your egg yolks.
And I'm sorry, egg yolks. Sorry. Thanks, babe. We tempered our egg yolks, not our egg whites, our egg yolks, and then added those back into our spinach mixture, and then we seasoned them with cayenne, nutmeg, salt, and pepper. Okay? We made a meringue.
Jeannie's threatening you if you say fold in one more time.
We made a meringue. And we used the cream of tartar in here to help them get big and stay big. And now we're going to add just a pinch of salt. Told you to have 3/4 of a teaspoon, half a teaspoon went into there, and a 1/4 teaspoon's going in here. And you'll see my meringue is looking all uniform. Okay, now we're going to add it into our pans. So I'm going to start here, and then if I have leftovers, I'm going to put them into my I'll show you what, well, I should show you what it looks like in ramekin, since some of you might be using that. Okay, because the idea here is to have your souffle rise up beautifully, you want to put in, you want them to be about halfway full, your ramekins. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, and you're going to kind of smooth out the top just a little bit. So it's about halfway full, 2/3 full, and you can just kind of smooth out the top just a smidge. Now, if you were doing straight up cheese, you'd be able to get it a lot smoother because your spinach wouldn't be causing you to have little ripples. If you were doing chocolate, you would do a different technique, but it would smooth out the top of that as well. We're going to pour this right into here. Oh, I've got leftover. I'm going to have to prep some more ramekins. Okay, so again, this is about 2/3 full. I'll show you what it looks like in a sec.
You got a good shot.
Okay, good. We're using a new camera today. So now we've got our souffle pan, and we've got our little ramekins. I'm going to put a little bit more in here. And that way if it puffs up really big, that's fine. It won't hurt anything. And into our preheated oven, they are going. I would encourage you to put your oven light on so that you can check on them without opening your oven. Because every time you open that oven, you are bringing the temperature down. Now, I said I was going to teach you how to do a vinaigrette, a basic vinaigrette, and I forgot to pull out the ingredients to do that. It was just going to be something to kill time while we waited for our soufflés to cook. So, while our soufflés are baking, what cooking questions do you have that I can answer for you while we wait? So those are going to be in there for the little ones about 20 minutes, and for the big one a little bit longer. I know there's a time delay, so I'm just hanging out.
And that's a lot of time to kill.
I know, it's going to be a lot of time to kill. But this is going to give you guys the opportunity to ask me all the questions you want, make suggestions for Nancy to weigh in on what you'd like to see me make, because you know this is a passion project that I do with her to teach her how to cook stuff that, you know, she doesn't know how to make.
If you would like, I can pull what you need for the vinaigrette.
Okay, I need olive oil. I need a vinegar. Pick a vinegar. Any vinegar?
I'm going to use the nice olive oil.
Yeah, you can use a nice olive oil. Yeah. Thank you. My husband's getting the olive oil that we picked up when we were in Rome. Red wine vinegar that I made is fine.
Is that over there?
Walter Lawrence is calling me, and I can't answer it because I'm in front of the camera. It's on the ground, babe, because it's big. And then I need a clove of garlic, which I can get. And I need the Dijon mustard.
Okay. Bethany wants to know how detrimental it is to leave out the cream of tartar.
It's not. You can totally do this recipe without it. As a matter of fact, I thought I was going to have to, um, because when I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. It had fallen off the shelf in the pantry, so I was like, "Where did it go?"
Sharon wanted to know if there is a gluten-free flour that could be used, could be substituted.
You know what? I would think that the King Arthur measure for measure gluten-free would work, because it's basically just a thickener. I would not try almond or something like that because you're trying to create a roux. But the measure for measure gluten-free from either Bob's Red Mill or from King Arthur, I think either of those would probably work really well.
Another question was, I'm not going to mention Zach's.
What's Zach's question? Go ahead.
Zach said, can I make a gravy by sprinkling flour on top of broth?
No, you can't, but thanks for asking.
And Lori Farina wanted to know the technique for chocolate souffle.
You know what? I have never made a chocolate souffle ever in my entire life. I've made chocolate mousse, and it's very similar. You beat your egg whites separately. The yolks are used for something else. You make a chocolate sauce, and then you basically, sorry Jeannie, fold the chocolate into the meringue and bake it. There's lots of recipes online that vary in difficulty. Some use melted chocolate, some use cocoa. We don't cover desserts here that often because everybody's got favorite desserts. I know everybody's asked me to do them, but the bottom line is you guys all have your favorite desserts. You don't need me to teach you how to do that.
Nanette wanted to know if you could substitute corn for spinach.
No.
Is there, what else did you need?
Dijon. No, you can't. Corn, not for this particular application. I guess there's probably a more like a creamed corn type of souffle that would make it like a spoon bread. Thank you. But for this amount of eggs and yolks, if you don't have spinach, leave it out. Just do it with the cheese. You could use kale, you could use Swiss chard, you could use spinach. Watercress would work as long as they are all cooked, squeezed dry, and chopped fine. I've even seen people do zucchini, where they shred it real fine, cook it in the pan, and then cook off as much moisture as possible and then fold it in. So you could do that too. But I would not try corn for a lot of reasons. Anything else? No?
That's it.
Okay. So, the thing about making a vinaigrette is that you want to use 2 parts oil and 1 part vinegar, or in some cases, I happen to like less acid, so I use 3 parts oil and 1 part vinegar. So
I'm just the opposite.
yeah, he likes it more acidy. So I'm gonna get a little measuring cup real quick. And I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of really good olive oil. Whoop. And then I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of vinegar. This is going to be enough dressing for, you know, a couple of people. Increase it as necessary. Now, oil and vinegar do not naturally mix together, which is why we're going to add Dijon mustard. Because Dijon mustard is what would be considered an emulsifier in this case. Now, this vinegar I made myself with a starter that I bought on Amazon and some leftover Beaujolais Nouveau that was, oh man, there's still some starter in there. I have to push it down. Go ahead.
Cheryl wanted to know, where do you keep your fresh garlic cloves?
I actually have this groovy little garlic keeper. It's normally on the counter, but I clean it up so you guys don't have to look at all the stuff behind me. And it was made for me by an artist from New Jersey, I believe, or maybe New Hampshire. But it's just a little container, and it has a hole in the top, so it allows the garlic to breathe, but keeps the sun off it. Sun is fresh garlic's enemy because it helps it makes it start sprouting. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons of, like I said, this Beaujolais Nouveau vinegar that I made. And some of the mother is still in there, so that's kind of cool. So it's continuing to do its job. Maybe I shouldn't put the lid on too tight. We're going to crush a clove of garlic, and then we're going to make a paste out of it. So I'm going to teach you a trick. Normally I use my little unitasker, but today I'm going to teach you a classic technique. So you want to take your skin off of your clove, and then you want to cut it very finely. Piece of skin there. Come on. Okay. And we're going to chop it up as fine as you can get it. And then we're going to use the back of our knife, the side, the fat part of our knife, to actually turn it into a paste. So get your garlic into a little pile. Take a little pinch of coarse salt because you need it to be an abrasive. You're going to turn your blade away from you, okay, away from you. You're going to pull your cutting board as close to your edge of your counter as you can. I'm going to actually turn it this way because I have a gripper on the edge and it's going to get in my way. Okay. And you're going to, in a motion that is rocking, so you're going to push down and pull toward you. And you're going to keep your blade as close to the board as possible. And you can hear that scritch, scritch, scritch of the salt. The salt's going to do 2 things. It's acting as an abrasive, and then it's also pulling the moisture out of the garlic itself. So you'll see we've got this really terrific paste. And we're going to do it one more time. Now, you can do this until it gets, like, seriously, where you can't see any pieces at all. I don't mind if we have a couple pieces because it's going into a dressing. So we're going to slide those in. Be careful cleaning your knife blade off that you don't cut yourself. We're going to take a couple of pieces of parsley. And all we want are the leaves. I know it's like you feel like you're wasting all of this great green stuff. Save these stems to go in your chicken stock, like I showed you in a previous video, because they will add all of the great parsley taste without wasting the beautiful green leaves in something that's going to get strained out. Board sliding across the counter today. I don't know why. And you want this as fine as possible, because you don't want to, take a bite out of salad and have this great big honking piece of parsley, and that's the kind that gets stuck in your teeth. So you want this as fine as possible. And it does take, once you get the hang of doing this, It's like, it's really easy. It's a total no-brainer. You're gonna go, why haven't I made my own salad dressing before? My friend Christine, who taught us all how to sharpen knives, she makes the best damn salad dressings. I mean, seriously. And it's kind of her thing, you know? She really enjoys it. All right, we're gonna get the parsley in there. And we're probably gonna do, for this amount, just a teaspoon or so. If you really like parsley a lot, you could put extra. Okay. Now we need to check on our meringues without opening the oven. I hope you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, because mine are rising up beautifully. They look so good. Okay, so at this point, your soufflés should be almost to the edge of your pan. And you're gonna leave them in there until they rise up past, and they're gonna have a nice golden brown top. Okay, so we're gonna put in our emulsifier now, and in this case, we're using Dijon mustard. You know, if you've ever had like a real Caesar salad, the emulsifier in that's an egg yolk. Because you need something to bind the oil to the acid.
Zach wants to know if you ever use garlic scapes.
I love garlic scapes, but they're kind of hard to find here in Las Vegas. You could totally use garlic scapes. I'm using a little pinch of salt, and I would use black pepper, but I'm not going to leave the shot again, so I'm just going to use white pepper because it's what's here. But you can use any type of pepper you like, black, white, whatever is fresh grated. And then you're going to take your whisk and just whisk it all together. So what you're going to notice is that the Dijon helps to hold it all together so that your fat, your oil, actually says, come here, vinegar, be my friend. And they combine into one molecule. It's the same thing that happens when you make mayonnaise. You've got acid, oil, and egg yolk. Your egg yolk is acting as an emulsifier to pull your acid and your oil together so that they make friends. So we're trying to have them make friends. Now you could do this if you have one of those stick blenders like I told you about, you know, previously. You could do this with a stick blender and it will come together a lot faster and it'll get thicker. But see how that's like not separated out and how it's nice uniform color and it looks pretty with the little bits of parsley in it. So we're just gonna taste this real quickly using the back of my spoon. I think it tastes pretty good. You can alter this by adding Parmesan cheese to it. You could change up your herbs. You put thyme, herbs of Provence, rosemary, whatever you like. But this is just a simple, basic vinaigrette. There's like, what, 6 ingredients in it? Oil, vinegar, garlic, salt, pepper, parsley, and your mustard. So it's just a really simple mustard vinaigrette. So that's how you do that. With your leftover egg yolks, the 2 that I showed you, look up how to make mayonnaise on the internet and make your own mayonnaise, make your own aioli. I can't because I actually threw out one and I only have 1 egg yolk and it's not going to work with 1 egg yolk. But that's really all there is to it. No more questions right now? Man.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to pull out the ramekins before, obviously, before the big souffle pan is done because they're going to be finished first because they only take about 20 minutes. So what kind of recipes, and don't even suggest desserts because we're not doing that. What kind of recipes or techniques do you want to see me do? Nancy, of course, will weigh in on them because this is a passion project to teach her how to cook. I also want to let you know, if you are RSVPing to my events and you haven't liked my page yet, please do. Please go over to YouTube and like that page as well, because when I have enough people following me on there, I'll be able to do it straight from YouTube instead of transferring it back and forth. Share these events with your friends. I mean, this one, like I said, it was going to go fast and dirty because it's like super time sensitive. And you can't, I can't wait around because then the meringue starts to deflate. But when you're watching this, you can always pause it and then start back up. And it's like I told for Lisa, it's going to be on YouTube shortly after we're done here. So the whole thing will be available on there. And the shopping list that I gave you is basically the recipe. I mean, they're in the order that you have to use them. And if you're following along with the instructions while we're doing it, you're going to be able to figure it all out. It's just really easy. Let's check that meringue, or check that souffle. Oh, it looks so good. They look so happy. So basically, you're just going to wait until they are...
Nancy says Walter has a question. That's why he called.
I know, but I couldn't answer, Nancy, because I was on the phone. What's Walter's question? We don't know what Walter's question is.
And Cheryl says that Saskatchewan, Canada is the mustard capital of the world.
Well, hi, Cheryl. That's Cheryl Sloboda-Winnicott. She is a caterer and blogger, and she is highly entertaining. And she is a part-time Arizona resident, and most of the time she lives up in Canada. And I don't know if she's freezing her ass off right now in Canada or if she is in Arizona. I don't know where she's at. She could be anywhere. She's like a secret agent, man.
Oh, and Nancy Mason says that Sheridan is in the Randolph cooking group. So and it's her first time watching.
Oh, well, hey, Sheridan.
Oh, and of course, Depop is on, and she wants to know what are garlic scapes.
Oh, garlic scapes are when garlic grows, the fronds that come out of the ground. So if you were to take this clove of garlic and put it in the ground, it would grow like, sometimes you'll see the little bit of garlic, and onions do it too, where it looks like it's growing. It sprouts. If you put this in the ground, you plant like a bulb, it'll start to grow. These are garlic scapes, and they're milder than a clove of garlic. But if you leave them alone, you'll end up getting a flower at the top that looks like an allium because it's a member of the allium family, if you're familiar with gardening at all. And these little flowers will actually make garlic seeds, and you can plant those and end up with a whole garden full of garlic. So you could actually take this one here and stick it out in the dirt and start making your own garlic garden.
Before I ask Walter's question, okay. Cheryl wants to know if she can use regular mustard.
You could use whatever kind of mustard you want. I wouldn't use like French's yellow mustard, but if you've got like a stone ground...
For anything.
What?
For
anything, because it's like basically tempera paint. But any good quality mustard you have, if you've got like a bourbon barrel, whole grain, whatever, yeah, throw that in. It doesn't matter. Whatever kind of mustard you have, it's basically acting as an emulsifier. Just don't use the French's yellow mustard because that's just gross.
Walt wants to know why he grows one hair on his neck.
I don't know why you grow one hair on your neck, Walt. Maybe it's because you're getting old.
Maybe that's a question for your dermatologist, not your cooking professional.
It might be a question for your dermatologist. So for those of you who don't know, Walter is my sister Nancy's husband, and he is a great cook. But Nancy struggles, and so she wants to learn, which is why we're doing these. And so Walter's kind of our comic relief when we do these demos. When I'm not being funny, Walter's chiming in and being funny.
Zach called you a mustard snob.
I am a mustard snob. I totally am.
We're mustard snobs, beer snobs.
I'm a mustard snob. I'm a beer snob. I'm just a food snob, basically. But although I will tell you, there are certain things that I love that if you knew that I ate them, you'd be like, oh my God. So I will tell you what they are. Yes, I like Spam. I like it when it's cooked like really crispy in the pan and you make an egg sandwich with it. Delicious. I love Taylor pork roll. I do. Taylor ham, Taylor pork roll. I love it. And if you're from the East Coast, specifically New York, New Jersey, Northern Pennsylvania, There's something called Weaver chicken roll. It's basically bologna that's made out of chicken. And it doesn't taste like bologna, but it's kind of like that. And I love it. I loved it as a kid. I don't put it on a sandwich. I just roll it up and I eat it. You know, and God, I love it. I love it. And I can't get it out here. And it's just one of those things that I absolutely love.
Jean SF Reef.
I don't know Eugene, but great.
Jean asked what kind of salt you use for the garlic paste.
Okay, I use kosher salt, and this one happens to be one that I get at Costco. But you can use Diamond Crystal, you could use Morton kosher salt, it doesn't matter what you're looking. Kosher salt is better than table salt because it's bigger grains, because you're looking for something that's a little bit more abrasive.
And she apparently likes Taylor pork roll as well.
Oh, good. I love Taylor pork roll.
Cheryl is in Canada because it says -50.
Oh, so she's freezing her ass off in Canada, Saskatchewan. I met Cheryl at a conference here called Cater Source, I believe. I don't think it was G2E. And she is just one of the most fun people ever. And I do hope you get to come back and visit me in Vegas sometime soon. I meet lots of people in really strange ways. And if you're in Vegas and you're watching this and you'd like to come and cook with me live, you are certainly welcome to volunteer to do so. The last demo that we did was live with the guys from Beer Freaks. We did beer cheese soup and it was really fun.
Gina's Walt's cousin.
Oh, hey, Gina. Okay, now I know who you are. So I'm actually really hoping that I can get Ryan Reeves from the Golden Knights to come and cook with me, because I'm telling you guys, I'm watering every single day, and he still hasn't come to check on me. And
those who aren't from Vegas won't get the reference, though.
Well, yeah, if you're not from Vegas, you know, you're not going to get that reference, but Ryan Reeves is the enforcer on our fabulous Golden Knights hockey team. And he does a series of commercials for our water department where he body checks people who are watering too much. And I mean, I'm watering every day, and he's not coming here. So I'm getting a little irritated. What other questions, babe? This is why I have my husband. He reads the questions to me so that when I transfer this over to YouTube and I delete the video, that, you know, you could still understand what the questions are. And you're welcome to ask questions and comment on YouTube as well, because I will answer them. Oh, my kitchen is starting to smell really good, you guys. And I hope yours is too. Have I answered all the questions so far?
Yeah, Lori Farina commented, Weaver chicken roll, haven't had it in decades. She's from New York originally.
So you know what I'm talking about. I haven't had it in 35 years. I love it.
And when I worked in the deli, I couldn't even stand slicing it.
So now you can eat your soufflés with spoons, or you can eat them with forks. We're going to use spoons, John and I, because that's what's my preference today. I'm just going to peek in on these. Oh, yes, it's looking gorgeous. My little ones did not rise up as high as I would have liked. So I should have probably filled the pan just a little bit more. But they did stay nice and fluffy, and they're going to be delicious.
Oh, and Gina's the one who made the spoons.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Winsong.
Oh, you are Winsong. Thank you so much. I love them. So you can find them on Facebook. It's Winsong Laser Studio, I believe. And they do.
She put the link.
Oh, she put the link for everybody? I will definitely transfer that information to my YouTube when I move everything over. So she did, my sister told her what to put on the spoons, and she put them on. And she has some really, you should find them on Facebook. She has some really cool things, like a really cool cookbook stand, beer tap handles, all different kinds of stuff.
I didn't know she did tap handles. I just had mine done.
We've already discussed that, dear. So, yeah, you can get anything you want done. Anything you want done. And they're really, nice. So, all right, I'm just about ready to pull the minis out of the oven.
And Cheryl says that she has a killer mustard recipe that we used in our catering. It was a highly guarded secret.
Well, I think you should unguard it and share it with me.
Nancy wants to know when you're coming to visit.
I don't know yet.
I don't know. When you coming here, Nance?
Probably after I get vaccinated. Okay, So you'll see mine didn't rise up as much as I would have liked, so I'm glad I put a little bit extra in. You want to come over here and try it with me? So don't ask any questions because he's going to be on this side. So it's going to be nice and light and fluffy. And if you buttered your pan right, it's going to pull right out. Careful you don't burn yourself.
See how I got the other hand behind me.
Good? It smells great. Mmm. I don't know. It's like I don't need you to feed me.
Though I wanted to.
Mm. It's like the lightest, fluffiest spinach. Spinach and I get a piece of parmesan back in my throat. Spinach and cheese omelet you've ever had. I mean, and it's going to be golden brown inside the pan like that, and that's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. But you'll notice as it cools, it starts to shrink down, so you want to eat it right away. It's not one of those things that you can say, "Oh, I cooked it now, I'll eat it tomorrow." No, because it's going to flatten out. It'll still taste delicious. It just won't be as fluffy. So we're just about at an hour. You guys have asked some really good questions. I will post a picture of my big souffle so that you can see what it looks like. But we're all done here. So I hope I taught you something new. I hope you try this if you didn't try to cook with me today. And I know I moved really fast, but egg whites are temperamental and you've got to work with them immediately. It's not one of those things that you can take your time and do. It's got to be boom, 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 boom. And then wait. And you wait while it bakes. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned something new. I hope that you had a good time. I hope that you continue to watch our videos and chime in. If you've got suggestions, send them in. Nancy will look at them and she'll say yes or no, and we will, determine what we want to make. I did a video a while back where I asked you guys what you wanted to cook, and I got some great suggestions from there. Nancy vetoed several of them. So, and it's got to be something she doesn't know how to cook. Like my next door neighbor said, "Oh, I should come over and teach you how to make a really good Sunday gravy." I'm like, my sister knows how to make a good Sunday gravy. We grew up in that culture. We don't need to know how to do that. I need to teach her something she doesn't know how to do. He goes, let me think about it. So I am open to having guest cooks with me. As you've seen, I had my friend Honey Bouquet, I had my friend Christine, and I had the guys from Beer Freaks come out. I am more than happy to have anybody who wants to come and cook with me. Just tell me why you want to cook with me and tell me what you want to make, and Nancy will either veto it or okay it. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you are all staying well. This is a great dish to make for Valentine's Day brunch, by the way. So now you know how to do it. Bye, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.